Why is it that whenever a major conflict erupts in the Middle East or beyond, Iran's name inevitably surfaces? From the deserts of Yemen to the battlefields of Ukraine, from proxy wars to direct confrontations, Iran seems to be everywhere. What motivates this nation to entangle itself in so many disputes? Is it survival, ideology, power, or is it something deeper? Something rooted in its history and worldview? These are the questions we must answer, not just to understand Iran, but to grasp the complex web of global conflicts that it influences. Iran's story begins not with its current conflicts, but with a revolution that shook the world in 1979. The overthrow of the Shah wasn't just the fall of a monarchy, it was the birth of a theocratic state with a mission: to reshape the Muslim world under the banner of revolutionary Shiite Islam. But revolutions don't stay within borders. Iran's leaders declared their intent to export their ideology across the region, challenge Western dominance, and support the oppressed wherever they might be. This ideological commitment became the foundation of Iran's foreign policy, shaping its actions for decades to come. But ideology alone does not explain Iran's involvement in global conflicts. To understand why Iran engages in so many disputes, we must look at its strategic goals. Iran is surrounded by enemies: Saudi Arabia to the south, Israel to the west, and American military bases scattered throughout the region. Its rulers believe that survival depends on maintaining a network of allies and proxies that can counterbalance these threats. This is why Iran supports groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, and the Houthis in Yemen. These aren't just ideological allies, they are Iran's eyes, ears, and fists in the region. Take Hezbollah, for example. Born out of the Lebanese civil war, this group has grown into one of Iran's most powerful proxies. It acts as a deterrent against Israel, a channel for Iranian influence in the Levant, and a key player in Syria's civil war. For Iran, Hezbollah is more than just an ally. It's a symbol of its ability to shape events far beyond its borders. But the same pattern is repeated elsewhere. In Iraq, where Iran backs Shiite militias, in Yemen, where it supports the Houthis, and in Palestine, where its alliance with Hamas has become increasingly strategic. Recent developments have cast Iran's role in global conflicts into sharper relief. On October 7, 2023, the world watched in shock as Hamas launched an unprecedented attack on Israel, firing thousands of rockets and sending fighters across the border. The scale and coordination of the attack raised immediate questions about its origins, and it didn't take long for fingers to point toward Iran. Intelligence reports revealed that Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, had been involved in the planning, providing training, weapons, and logistical support to Hamas. Iran denied direct involvement, but its role was unmistakable. The consequences of this attack have been far-reaching. As Israel launched a massive military response, the region braced for wider conflict. Iran's allies in Iraq, particularly the powerful Shiite militias it funds and arms, began targeting American bases. In Lebanon, Hezbollah escalated tensions along the Israeli border, raising fears of a two-front war. Iran's strategy was clear: to use its proxies to pressure Israel and its allies while avoiding direct confrontation. This is classic Iranian doctrine: waging war through others, staying in the shadows, and yet controlling the outcome. But Iran's ambitions are not limited to the Middle East. In recent years, it has extended its reach into global conflicts. Its role in the war in Ukraine has drawn international attention, with reports confirming that Iran has supplied Russia with drones and ballistic missiles. These weapons have been used to devastating effect against Ukrainian forces, cementing Iran's place as a key player in the global anti-Western alliance. The West has responded with sanctions, but Iran remains defiant, demonstrating its ability to adapt and survive in a hostile international environment. Why does Iran take these risks? The answer lies in its unique worldview. Iran sees itself as both a victim and a savior, a nation under siege by foreign powers, but also a defender of the oppressed. This narrative shapes its actions, giving it the justification to engage in conflicts far from its borders. In Yemen, Iran supports the Houthis not just to challenge Saudi Arabia, but to position itself as a champion of anti-imperialism. In Gaza, its support for Hamas is framed as a moral duty to resist Israeli occupation. And in Ukraine, its alliance with Russia is presented as part of a broader struggle against Western hegemony. But there is another layer to Iran's actions: deterrence. Iran knows it cannot match its enemies, particularly the United States and Israel, in conventional military strength. Instead, it has developed a strategy of asymmetric warfare, using proxies, cyber attacks, and covert operations to level the playing field. By entangling its enemies in multiple conflicts, Iran aims to create strategic depth and protect its borders from direct attack. Yet this strategy is not without costs. Decades of sanctions have crippled Iran's economy, leading to widespread unrest at home. Protests have erupted over economic hardship, government corruption, and political repression. But Iran's leaders have shown remarkable resilience, using a combination of force and ideology to maintain control. They frame every challenge as part of a larger conspiracy against Iran, rallying their supporters around the idea of resistance. The question is, how long can Iran sustain this approach? Its involvement in so many conflicts stretches its resources and exposes it to retaliation. Its alliance with Russia has drawn the attention of NATO, and its support for groups like Hezbollah and Hamas has made it a target for Israeli and American strikes. Yet Iran's leadership remains undeterred, committed to a vision of itself as a regional and global power. As we look to the future, one thing is clear: Iran's role in global conflicts will continue to shape the world we live in. Its involvement in Yemen, Iraq, Syria, Palestine, and now Ukraine is not just a series of isolated actions. It is a coherent strategy aimed at reshaping the global order. But this strategy comes with risks, not just for Iran, but for the entire region. The Middle East stands on the brink of a wider war, with Iran at the center of the storm. This is the story of Iran, a nation driven by ideology, shaped by history, and unrelenting in its pursuit of influence. It is a story of defiance and survival, of power and vulnerability. And as the world watches, one question remains: will Iran's strategy succeed, or will it lead to its undoing?